What if the version of you reading this right now is the last broke, stuck, overlooked version of you that will ever exist? What if 2026 is the year the whole story flips, and 10 years from now you look back at this exact moment and say, that was the turning point? Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you is not a motivational speech, it's a mirror. And you might not be ready for what you see in it, but you need to see it anyway. Let me tell you about someone. No famous name that, no mansion, no highlight reel, just a kid sitting in a tiny apartment in a city that didn't know his name existed, eating the same cheap meal 3 days in a row, wondering if the ceiling of his life was already visible from where he sat. Sound familiar? Maybe the details are different for you. Maybe it's not a small apartment. Maybe it's a dead-end job, a failed business, a relationship that took more than it gave, a dream you've been almost chasing for 3 years now. The details change, the feeling doesn't. That hollow, exhausted feeling of being capable of so much more and not knowing how to break through the wall in front of you. That feeling is not weakness. That feeling is the starting line. Every single great story in history, every rags to riches arc that made you cry in a movie theater began exactly there, right at the bottom of the feeling you're trying to escape. Now here's where it gets interesting, because here is what nobody tells you about the rags to riches story. They show you the end, the mansion, the standing ovation, the tearful acceptance speech, but they skip the Tuesday. They skip the ordinary, unglamorous, nobody's watching Tuesday, where the decision actually gets made. The Rocky montage doesn't show the morning Rocky almost didn't get up. The Lion King doesn't dwell on the years Simba spent running away. But those years, those invisible, silent, grinding years, that's where the real transformation happens. And here's the wild thing. You might be in the middle of yours right now and not even know it. As the great Uzbek thinker Alisher Navowi once wrote, Bir kun kelur, sen ozingni tanimaisan. A day will come when you will not recognize yourself. He wrote that 5 centuries ago. He was talking about you, right now, in 2026. So let's talk about the mechanism. How does a person go from invisible to undeniable, from overlooked to unforgettable? Because it is not luck. I need you to really hear that. Luck is what people call your success when they weren't watching you work. The actual process is something different. It starts with what I call the identity shift. Not a skill upgrade, not a new morning routine, an identity shift. The moment you stop seeing yourself as someone trying to get somewhere and start seeing yourself as someone who is already becoming something. There's a scene in the movie The Pursuit of Happiness. Will Smith, dirt on his shirt, sleeping in a public bathroom with his son, and he looks at his child, and in that moment, he does not see defeat. He sees a promise he is going to keep to himself no matter what. That is an identity. That is the seed of everything. Do you have that seed right now? Do you know the promise you are keeping to yourself, even on the hard days? Because here is what happens when that seed exists. You start making different micro-decisions, not the big dramatic ones. Those come later, the small ones. Do I watch 1 more hour of distraction, or do I spend 30 minutes building something small? Do I complain about the situation, or do I study someone who escaped a worse one? Do I wait until conditions are perfect, or do I start with what I actually have today? And I know that this sounds simple. It is not easy. Simple and easy are not the same country. But every single person who became unrecognizably successful started exactly there. Small decision, then another, and one day someone who knew you from before looks at you and says, "Wait, what happened to you?" And you smile, because you know exactly what happened. You just didn't stop. Can I ask you something genuinely? What would you do right now, today, if you fully believed, not hoped, not wished, but believed that you were already on your way? What would change in how you walked into a room, how you introduced yourself, what projects you said yes to, and which excuses you finally stopped entertaining? The philosopher Seneca wrote, "It is not that I am brave enough to begin, it is that I am finally tired enough of waiting." 2,000 years ago.
Still true, still burning. Are you tired enough yet? Now, watch how the story accelerates, because once the identity shifts, something almost cinematic begins to happen. The right people start appearing, not because the universe becomes magical, although I'm not ruling that out, but because you start showing up in different rooms, you start speaking differently, you start asking better questions, and people who are already where you want to be can smell the hunger on a person who is actually moving. Think about Simba returning to Pride Rock. He didn't come back with a plan deck and a slide presentation. He came back transformed, and transformation is magnetic. People follow energy. They fund conviction. They invest in someone who is clearly, undeniably in motion. And yes, there will be a crisis. There is always a crisis. In every great story, every single one, there is the moment where everything appears to fall apart right before it comes together. This is not bad luck. This is the plot. In Kung Fu Panda, Po loses everything, his confidence, his master's approval, his own belief in himself, right before he discovers the secret ingredient. Do you know what the secret ingredient was? Nothing. The scroll was blank. The power was always in believing it was there. Which means the thing you think is missing, the funding, the connections, the credentials, the perfect moment, may not actually be the thing standing between you and your breakthrough. You might already have what you need. You might just need to believe the scroll isn't empty. Here is what 2026 specifically offers that no previous year did. The tools available to a person with a phone and a vision today would have seemed like sorcery to entrepreneurs 20 years ago. Distribution is free, knowledge is free, attention is earnable. You can build an audience, a brand, a product, a business from a room that barely has furniture in it. The barriers are lower than they have ever been in human history, which means the only thing standing between who you are today and who you could become by December of this year is the decision you make about your own story. Are you the main character, or are you an extra in someone else's movie? Because I promise you, you have the material for a lead role. The question is whether you are going to show up for the audition. Think about Thomas Edison failing 10,000 times before the light bulb. Think about J.K. Rowling writing Harry Potter as a single mother in a coffee shop, rejected 12 times. Think about every great Uzbek athlete, scientist, artist who came from a small town with big dreams and no guarantee. Just work, just belief, just the next step taken in the dark. The story is always the same underneath. Ordinary person, extraordinary decision, relentless continuation. So, let's fast forward. Let's say you take this seriously. Let's say starting today, you treat your dream like it has a deadline, your skills like they have room to grow, your network like it needs building, and your mindset like it needs daily maintenance the way your body does. What does December look like? Not the mansion yet. I'm being real with you. 12 months is 12 months. But what does it look like? Maybe the side project is actually making money. Maybe the degree is finally finished. Maybe the book has a first draft. Maybe you've lost the weight, started the company, moved to the city, had the conversation you've been avoiding for 2 years. Maybe you look in the mirror and for the first time in a long time, you don't see someone who is stuck. You see someone who is moving. And that right there is the beginning of Unrecognizable. Because here is the truth about the rags to riches story that films get right and life sometimes makes us forget. It is not about the riches. It is about the moment you are no longer the person who was trapped by the rags. The moment you break the identity that kept you small. The moment gratitude floods in, not for what you have yet, but for who you are finally becoming. That gratitude is real. That moment comes, and when it does, it tastes nothing like luck. It tastes like every single Tuesday you chose to keep going when quitting felt completely reasonable. You are not too late. You are not too old. You are not too inexperienced, too poor, too unknown, too far behind. You are exactly where every great story begins, at the part before anyone believes in you, except you. So go be the person that future you is going to look back at with complete and total respect. Go be unrecognizable by the end of this year. The story is already writing itself. The only question is whether you are holding the pen.